So I haven't worn this little number since high school, but I feel like Miley would approve. Hey guys, it's Nicole. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more music, mostly Taylor Swift, and book-related content. Now, before any possible Taylor haters lay into me for the thumbnail, because I don't feel like those two fandoms have a whole lot of overlap, I truly believe that's what this album is for Miley. It's her Reputation era. She's been through a divorce, her house burned down, her entire career, and not just this era. She's just not had the best public perception in the media. She has seen some shit, and now it is time to just have this cathartic moment, which is also the overall theme of Taylor's Reputation era. This album is very much the vibe of releasing the negative energy. I don't care if you're a fan or not a fan of either of those two female artists. Me comparing Plastic Hearts to the vibe of Reputation is 100% a compliment coming from me, but Miley went even harder. I don't think Taylor would have been this bold, but also Miley is made for rock, and we see that on this album so much. The vocals in particular, it's really nice to see the two different approaches both of those female artists took to a similar era and intention. Also, I have been a fan of Miley Cyrus even longer than I've been a fan of Taylor Swift. Maybe a year before I found Taylor, I was there with a huge Hannah Montana obsession. I'm more of a fan of Taylor now, but I've kept up with Miley since 2005, which is insane to think about. I'm just always excited to see what she does, so let's just get into the full analysis of all of these songs. This is way overdue, but better late than never. I need to talk about this album. So I love this as an opener, the way it starts with the bass and the clap, and then that really rock inspired percussion comes in, and it's got that classic tambourine that's in all the classic rock inspired songs. I don't think there could have been a better opening track. She just establishes the sound of the entire album completely with this track. I also love how clean and crisp the guitar sounds. She could have gone in a direction that utilized something with way more distortion, but she went with something that's just so pleasing to the ear and simple. She doesn't have to overdo it because she's literally Miley Cyrus, and her voice and style is made for this. She only brings in some distortion during the little guitar solo that happens. It's subtle, it's utilized so well, and it just kind of has its moment to shine, I guess. Also, I want to talk about the lyrics on this album. Of course, if you've watched my channel before, you'll know I am such a fan of the super poetic folk genre kind of lyrics, but I think there's something to be said about lyrics that completely wholeheartedly fit the genre that they're in. This album has so many clever just one-liners that just sound badass and fit with the music so well. For example, I'm completely naked, but I'm making it fashion. Jesus, what a line. It's so concise, or just the self-awareness. She's just not afraid to say something like maybe getting married just to cause a distraction. The entire first verse in general is so strong. We love that being an introduction to the album. This is the perfect modern rock song with classic influences. This is probably one of the 10 out of 10s on this album for me. There's just really not any critique. And my favorite line is probably, I'm completely naked, but I'm making it fashion. Okay, this is probably the best title track I've seen on an album in a while. I think this is actually the best song on the album, in my opinion. It's honestly really deep, and I like songs with a lot of meaning. This definitely gets vulnerable here. Also, if you have not watched the Backyard sessions on YouTube that she did, go watch it. It's a live performance of this song. I'm so envious of her voice and that raspy tone. It's so warm. It's not something that gets annoying. God, I would die to be able to sound like that. She just has such control over her voice, and she looks so happy in that performance. I love how it uses the little bongo sounding drums, but otherwise it just kind of sticks to a modernized form of classic rock, which I'm also obsessed with. That tambourine makes such an appearance again. As this song's playing, I just see her with a tambourine and tight leather pants in my head. Anyone else? She's serving just classic 80s rocker through this whole song. It also has another guitar solo, so she's staying consistent with the sound for this album. As far as the lyrics go, this is one of those songs that sounds really happy and fun, but the lyrics are kind of dark, and I just want to analyze it a little. She starts off with the line, "the sunny place for shady people." I think she's maybe criticizing LA and how some people possibly have tried to use her to their advantage. LA is such a warm, sunny place, but can be full of two-faced people. I don't even know them, but they won't leave here. This could be about paparazzi, maybe. I don't want to jump to conclusions and think maybe it's a horde of fans or something. I mean, we've seen the way Miley acts around paparazzi for sure. I don't blame her for that. She just could feel surrounded by people all the time, but still feel so alone alone because no one wants her for her. Like, they just want what she could possibly do for them. It's like she wants to connect with people, but she's just way too scared to. She doesn't want people to get too close to her. I love the alliteration of sunrise suffocation, being lost in black hole conversation. You know, she could be talking about like either people trying to have meaningless conversations with her and she's not able to make that deeper connection with any of them, or she's numbed by drugs maybe and is with these people and they're all trying to get high to feel something, but it's not working and everyone high feels like they're trying to make this huge revelation, but they end up just like talking themselves in circles. Love me now but not tomorrow, fill me up but leave me hollow. It's different. That is a sad lyric and it's so well written. I want to kind of talk about what the first line of the chorus means. I've been California dreaming, plastic hearts are bleeding. Of course, California dreaming references that classic 60s song by the Mamas and the Papas, but the way they talk about California dreaming is like they want to get out of this wintry climate and they're viewing California as like a positive thing, but Miley makes it sad. Like, I think it's interpreted as she was chasing this fame and fortune, and then when she finally got it, it wasn't all that she thought it was going to be. And plastic hearts are bleeding feels sarcastic to me. Like, it feels like she let some people down and broke some hearts, but she doesn't feel like it's genuine that they're upset maybe. She says they have plastic hearts, like everyone's got like plastic bodies in California. Maybe she's saying like no one is real externally or internally. A little parallel there. And oh, they're bleeding, like plastic hearts can't bleed. So she thinks it's just all for show, the way people say that she's hurt them. Anyways, this is probably the most poetic and meaningful song on the album because you could analyze this to mean so many different things. Like, we're never gonna truly know what it means for her, but as a song, it just really lets the listener decide. And I love that. So this is an 11 out of 10, only because there are several 10 out of 10s on this album. And for me to classify this as my favorite one, it needs to be like a step higher. My favorite lyric is "the sunny place for shady people." It's so smart and concise, and I love that she literally opens the song with that. She knows what she's doing. This chorus is a gift from God, first of all. The whole punctuated I know start to it, she just full sent it. The tambourine also kicks in around that time. We love to see that consistent sound. I also love the vocal range on this one. This is another one that sounds so good and energetic, but it's just so sad. For all my Swifties out there, this really makes me think of Champagne Problems. She literally even sings "I brought you down to your knees," and it's such a clever double meaning sort of line. Like, you could make someone weak and bring them to their knees, but also a proposal. We see a recurring theme on this album of Miley viewing herself as someone who just can't do commitment, and she's a little bit bitter at herself about this, especially on this one. The love interest is like this good, stable person, and she doesn't think she's good enough for them. She says she ruins everything and can't be what they need. It's vulnerable, and it's so sad. It's very much like right person, wrong time. Like, she just hasn't matured enough yet, or maybe never will. Dare I say, this is another 10 out of 10. I don't see any flaws with this song. I'm sorry. I promise I'll have more varied ratings later on. The best line is hands down, "Angels like you can't fly down here with me." What a hook. Okay, so first of all, I'm really glad they did a music video for this one. It was much needed. There's fishnets, fake blood, Miley eats a spider. Lean into it, you know? And at the end, there's like this clip from a movie, and it says like, "This is dedicated to all my exes, eat shit," or something. And then the woman says, "I'm a free woman now, it feels good," or something like that. And it fits really well. I love the cinematic experience of this video. The way Dua and Miley sound together is so satisfying because it starts off with Miley's signature rasp, and then when Dua comes in, it's like this smooth vocal of like this 70s pop princess, you know? And the contrast is very nice. As far as the song itself goes, I don't think this one is that good. It's very basic. I checked and I did find out that Miley and Dua both have writing credits on it, but like along with like 10 other people, which is more than any of the other songs on this album. In my experience and opinion, the more people that are writing a song, the more watered down and like pop radio manufactured it gets. The lyrics just aren't anything new. I mean, the song just serves as a vessel for like Miley and Dua to do this collab, I think. But otherwise, I just don't understand how that many people can like sit down and write a song together. Like, how does each person contribute enough to get a writing credit? Like, do they each just write one singular line? I never understood that. And at this point, I can almost tell when a song has more than a few writers on it because it just gets generic. Personally, I love writing by myself or with like one other person. So I think this is 8 out of 10 purely because it's Dua and Miley. If it was anyone else, it would be lower. Or if it was just like Miley on her own, this would probably be a 7. Like, it sounds fun, but it's not like serving me anything, you know? I like the line, "Your face on my ceiling, I fantasize." That's probably the best line. I like the visual that it's giving. Okay, right off the bat, this one just sounds kinky. The guitar is really distorted and it's super refreshing to see her lean into that for this track. The lyrics are also kinky as hell. She wants a lover, but she wants self-inflicted torture. And the hook is give me what I want or I'll give it to myself. So this follows the theme of Miley not being one for commitment and instead wanting like one night stands or flings or like friends with benefits sort of situations. That's more her cup of tea than marriage, I guess. The sound is more modernized than anything else so far. Like the sound of some of the instruments is really produced, and I like that more classic sound she was playing with earlier more personally. This is probably going to be another 8 out of 10. It's not the best lyrically and the music just isn't my favorite arrangement, but still a bop. None of these have been skips. I like the opening line, surprise, midnight and the moon is out. If she'd have done some sort of like kinky pushing the envelope, like werewolf sort of metaphors, I'd be way more into that. She had the opportunity right there to be like weird sexy Miley and she just didn't take it, other than the preceding line, bite marks like an animal. Come on, Miley, you're setting us up for this like moon imagery. Like, just tell us you're in love with a werewolf. It could be like reverse Twilight. So this is a title that really captures your attention and just captures like the essence of rock, I think. I like the fade in the beginning, it's really fun. She talks about angels, devils, heaven and hell so much on this album. I love that consistency. I love that each line in the verse starts with sometimes. I just love a good theme, and the story behind Under the Disco Ball, it's the disco ball in her house. Like, I just love those personal touches in songs. So the lyrics for me aren't the strongest on the album, but the sound is so fun. I definitely think that's this song's strength. So this is probably a 9 out of 10. My favorite line might be gotta listen when the devil's calling. I can't find any ones better than that. I mean, they're all just kind of like average. I love the little synth riff that repeats. This is such a good song. It sounds amazing and the lyrics are so personal. So the overall message is a lot like Can't Be Tamed. We're really throwing it back for this one. It's wild to think she's always had this clear and confident of an idea of who she is. Like, supposedly it wavered a little bit with stuff like Malibu and I guess the whole Younger Now album, but I haven't listened to that. She is just being upfront about the fact that she's not someone who's meant to be with the same person or get married, essentially. I don't know if she's ever revealed herself to be polyamorous or anything, but she's just not showing shame in that. I like how this song kind of has a timeline of all her relationships, especially how they were perceived in the media. Like, it switches from See My Lips on Her Mouth, Everybody's Talking Now, which is about the girl she immediately got with after her divorce. And then in the last chorus, it switches to See His Hands Around My Waist, Thought You'd Never Be Replaced, like when she got with Cody Simpson after consequently dumping the first girl. And supposedly both Liam and that girl unfollowed her after that or something. But she's being upfront that she'll never stay in a relationship for long. Like, she even broke up with Cody shortly after that. So I think the bridge is cool because she seems to be accusing other people of being insincere, while with Miley, it's like what you see is what you get. She never hides anything. This is another 10 out of 10. It encapsulates Miley as a person so well. My favorite line is See My Lips on Her Mouth, Everybody's Talking Now. I can't imagine feeling the way she did when her divorce was being broken to the press and being perceived in the way it was, and everyone had an opinion, and she's just over here doing her own thing for reasons that we're never gonna know or understand. It also made me think of the line in the Taylor Swift song Endgame, I swear I don't love the drama, it loves me. So this is like the first ballad that shows up on this album. The genre feels more like acoustic. The genre feels like more acoustic western than rock. Some of these lines are so strong. You like a neon light shining through a door that I can't keep closed. She can't stop thinking about him, and when she sings, I can't see myself through the fire and smoke because her house burned down. She kind of flips the script here in saying like he's always building cities on the hearts he broke. I'm assuming this references Liam. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't keep up with her like personal relationships much. I love that this song comes right after Midnight Sky because it like shows the back and forth between how she's feeling. Like, she has these moments where she's like a bad bitch who doesn't need no man, and then just these lower moments during a breakup. The line, I think about eventually you're holding me and dancing to the record like a movie scene.
If we were a movie, you'd be the right guy, and I'd be the best friend.
Oh my god, I'm so nostalgic. While this one is a different sort of genre, it fits in the album really well, and if anything, it makes it like not monotonous and like the same rock thing over and over and over again, you know? It's still very Miley. It's not a top tier one for me, but definitely a 9 out of 10. My favorite lyric is always building cities on the hearts that you broke. We love a good metaphor. So this one also does some kind of like acoustic ballad intro thing, but that percussion is undoubtedly rock influenced, unlike the last track. So I love the bass line in this one, and the harmonies are so angelic. Her ad-libs in all of these songs are really good, but these might be the best harmonies. The way she screams "hate me" in that rasp is also just a gift from God. Like the way she says "I know that you're wrong for me" and how angry she sounds. So the chorus is really interesting because she's just wondering if her ex-lover is going to grieve her if she were to die. It's so sad to think that the one day they may not hate her would be the day that she dies. Like that's the only time they're able to push their anger aside. Why are so many of these songs just like depressing? She wishes this person would think of her, but she knows she's not on their mind. Another really sad one that sounds like a bop. I love it though. I wish this one had a bridge and maybe went a little harder on the lyrics, but this is still a 9 out of 10 just because that chorus is really satisfying to me. Like it's so sad. It says everything it needs to just encapsulate the entire concept of the song in only just a few lines, and we love that. The best line is probably the first line of the chorus because it sets up the entire concept of the chorus. I wonder what would happen if I die, or I hope all of my friends get drunk and high. That's such a Miley thing to say also. Okay, so after those two like sad girl hour songs, we're just straight back to this like I can't be tamed type of energy. This album has so many ups and downs that you're not going to be bored. It's kind of interesting because with Taylor's reputation, she really front loaded the album with all of these bad bitch songs, and then the second half was the more vulnerable side. And I understand what Taylor was doing with like addressing her reputation, and then she peels back the layers of that like tough outer skin to show who she really is and like the vulnerable parts. But sonically, I think I love the ups and downs and the contrast of this one more if we're just talking about like the structure and track listing. It's like the whirlwind of what Miley feels second to second, and I kind of wish the structure of Rep was a little bit more like that, because I think there was a quote from Taylor that said one minute she felt fine and then the next minute she was super bitter and like a caged animal lashing out or something, and then she'd be super sad and like down in the dumps. And I wish I could have seen that in the track listing a little more. Just a thought. I'm so here for the Joan Jett collab. Is it Joan or Joanne? Joanne sounds way too craft store. It has to be Joan. Miley really just said hook me up with the baddest bitch in rock and roll. Those vocals in the beginning are so kinky. I'm screaming. It kind of makes me think of the dress vocals that Taylor Swift had on the Reputation track, where it's like that high breathy thing she does. I also love the sound of the open guitar chords in the chorus. They just let them ring. Also, I cannot tell the difference between Miley and Joan's voice. Like they're two sides of the same coin. I just never know when the other one's singing. Vocal twins though, and they go really well together. As far as lyrics go, I love that she talks about creeping in the night because it sounds like a reference to night crawling. For the like millionth time, I love recurring themes on an album. Some of these lines are just so funny to me because they lean into that heartbreaker image so hard. Like, I did something bad by Taylor vibes. I've always picked a giver because I've always been a taker. What a way with words. The self-awareness, we love that. I never learned my lesson, so I always do it twice. What a line. So this one's another 10 out of 10. I don't know what to tell you. The title's intriguing. The one-liners are iconic. I love how she's spoken about the connection to her beliefs in Buddhism and how she believes in karma, but she also thinks it might not come back to haunt her in this life because I guess they do believe in rebirth. So whoever she's reborn as, like, that's the person who can deal with that. That's kind of funny. So the best line is either I've always picked a giver because I've always been a taker, or I never learned my lesson, so I always do it twice. Something about those are so snappy and like sharp to me. Right off the bat, the opening line just makes me think of I Walk the Line by Johnny Cash. Anyone else? I think that might have been intentional though. Also, this feels like a Phil Collins track for some reason. I'm confused by the sound, but it's also kind of a jam. The bridge is really nice. I think it's a great climax to this song. Lyrically, I think it's really interesting that she's kind of just like sadly stewing in her self-awareness of like, if you're looking for stable or faithful, that'll never be me. Then she flips it around in the last chorus and says she hopes she's enough for this person and she'd never leave, which seems a little conflicting with some of the other ideas in the rest of the album. She talks a lot about crimes on this album. I like that recurring theme. Taylor also did that with like Ready for It and Getaway Car, that whole like robber, thief, jailer sort of vibe. So this might be my least favorite song, but it's by no means a skip though. I want to give it a 7 because it's like my least favorite, but maybe it's probably more of an 8 out of 10. I don't know, I'm conflicted because the lyrics in the Phil Collins genre is like not my thing, but I love the way it flips in the end and I love the way the bridge sounds. I don't know, it's a decent one. My favorite lyric is I stopped myself before the crime, even though that's so cliche because I can't find anything else that sticks out to me. It could mean like right before she like cheats on this person, she's able to stop herself, like she's always playing with fire and stopping herself before it happens. That's what she says in the chorus. She could never be fully faithful. I don't know, it's a little vague, but I'd love to hear your interpretations in the comments. First of all, what a title. I'll admit I haven't listened to this one much until this moment because the sound seemed repetitive. Like for some reason, I just haven't been listening to it as much as the other ones, even though I do love the chords and melody now that I'm revisiting it. So I don't know what I was on in not listening to this. The lyrics are insanely strong. I love that she's getting like a little political, a little commentative. Commentative, is that a word? I think in general she's talking about how like during her bangers era, when she became all provocative and was wearing the metaphorical golden G-string, or maybe literal. Everyone said she's like corrupting our children's minds and all that crap, and she like parallels it with actual political corruptness and poverty and heartlessness. She says the old boys hold all the cards and they ain't playing gin, like they have the power in their hands and it's not some sort of innocent game. It's real people they affect. I love the "you dare to call me crazy, have you looked around this place" line. On God, we had bigger things to worry about than Miley Cyrus just like shaking her ass. Also, the bridge is so good. It's the strongest part of this song. It's so poetic. So the madman's in the big chair. Oh, Trump! And his heart's an iron vault. He says, if you can't make ends meet, honey, it must be your fault. Yeah, it's not rent disproportionately rising in comparison to wages. It's not healthcare, even with insurance being completely unobtainable for Americans. It's not my bachelor's degree costing me $100,000. She's spitting truth, and I'm sad. The more I like sit and think about this, the more I'm thinking I might have to take my top track label away from Plastic Hearts in favor of Golden G-String. Because after analyzing it and really reading into it, how can this not be your favorite track? 10 out of 10, Miss Miley. 11 out of 10. Now I'm sad. I was all opinionated about your ass shaking back in 2013. Man, I did not know what was coming. What a closer. What a closing track. The best lyric to me is maybe caring for each other is just too 1969. But I could see any of these being the best lyric. And before anyone points it out, I do acknowledge that we have made so many strides since the 1960s. Like racial injustice, homophobia, transphobia have all come a long way in fucking dying, as much as we've been able to kill it. I don't believe in romanticizing the past, but there undoubtedly was like an economic prosperity that like maybe we're not ever going to be able to see again. People could like buy houses and go to the doctor. For the most part, the vibes were all like love filled, and I think that's what she's getting at more than anything. Okay, so overall, this might be her best album. The track list and themes are so strong and developed, like each song plays into all the others. It's just very satisfying, and I haven't kept up with her music as much as a lot of other people. I never listened to Younger Now, as I said before, but I did love Malibu. If that's problematic of me, let me know. But I guess that was like insincere and not really as relevant as an album like this one, for example. So what do you guys think? Is this her best album? Also, please let me know some of your favorite lyrics on this album, because I love lyrics and I'd love to know what you guys think of these ones. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know what other albums you want me to review. If you want to follow me on my Instagram, it's right here. And if you want to follow me on my TikTok, that's right here. I will see you next week for another video, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye guys.